Yeah, I'm moving too with no hair when I was like.
Same hairdo.
Okay. All right, we're gonna go.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name's John Cornyn, and I have the great honor of representing the 28 million people who call Texas home, along with Senator Cruz, who you'll hear from shortly. But we're here at this shelter where so many guests are staying as a result of this terrible hurricane that's hit this region of the United States and our state in particular. And I just want to commend the outstanding leadership of Judge Emmett and Mayor Turner. You know, one of the things that's made this hurricane different, despite the terrible disaster and the loss of human life and the loss of people's homes, has been the way that people have pulled together, and it takes great leadership at the local level, at the state level. Governor Abbott's really done a tremendous job, and at the national level too, from the president on down. But we are here today, and you'll hear more from him in a moment, with the Majority Leader of the House of Representatives, Kevin McCarthy from California. And one of the reasons it's important for him to be here is because the entire Texas congressional delegation will be returning to Washington, D.C. Tonight and tomorrow. And the first order of business is to make sure that we do everything we can do to make sure the federal government is providing the support that's needed for Texas and Texans to heal. And so it's great to have the Majority Leader of the House of Representatives here, and we're going to go back and take care of that business. Last night, Leader McCarthy and I were with Governor Abbott, and we are joined together as local officials, state, and now federal officials to try to make sure we get this done. Before I turn the podium over to my colleague, Senator Cruz, I just want to recall, after another terrible natural disaster, an explosion in West Texas, I happened to cross a county commissioner there who said, Texas doesn't just describe where you're from, it describes who your family is. And I've always remembered those words at a time like this, because I can't tell you how proud I am of everybody in our great state who's pulled together in incredible ways, from the folks who got their bass boat out and rescued people off the top of houses. We thank our friends from Louisiana for the Cajun Navy, and so many people pulled together to help here in our great state. And I do think that in the midst of this terrible disaster, we've seen the very best of the human spirit and the Texas spirit, and I couldn't be more proud. With that, let me turn it over to Senator Cruz.
Thank you, John. We're here today celebrating heroes. We're celebrating unity. And we're celebrating love. You are seeing the people of Texas standing united across our state in every community, and Americans united all across the country. We've been through a horrific tragedy. There are a lot of Texans hurting right now. And yet we are seeing something extraordinary, something breathtaking. A unity of purpose and sharing and love. In the midst of the disaster, we saw police officers and firefighters and guardsmen and men and women rescuing their neighbors. Thank you for your heroism. Thank you for your bravery. We saw local leaders and county leaders and state leaders and federal leaders working together in harmony. Let me say, our mayor, Mayor, you've done a phenomenal job. We're proud to have you as our mayor. And Judge Emmett, the county is doing phenomenally well. Thank you for your tireless work. That unity of purpose will help us as we move from search and rescue, the phase we were in last week, to where we are today, relief, providing for relief for people who are struggling, and the next stage is rebuilding. And let me tell you now, Texas, we will rebuild, and we will come back stronger than ever because of the unity of purpose and the single-minded resolve and the love that we are seeing across this state. The Texas congressional delegation is unified. John Cornyn and I in the Senate and the entire delegation in the House are standing together. We are going to see very significant federal relief coming to this state, very significant state relief coming to this state. Governor Abbott is doing a phenomenal job, and together with the same spirit, the same love of freedom, the same fearless determination that a handful of settlers on the bayou had, we will rebuild even greater. Yesterday I visited with people who were hurting in Beaumont and Port Arthur and Nederland and Orange. A couple of days ago in Victoria and Port Aransas and Aransas Pass and Rockport. All across this state. We're hurting, and yet all across this state. The message that each of us has heard over and over again as you're at a shelter and you visit with someone who's lost their home, lost everything, and you're given 2 packs of diapers. I've heard at least a dozen times a woman say, no, I'll just take one. Somebody else needs them more than me. Somebody else was hurt more than me. I may have lost my home, but thank God I've got my babies. Seeing over and over again here at the shelters. Most of the people here have been here volunteering at the shelters. You're sitting there serving lunch, turning to the gentleman next to you saying, thank you for being here, and having him laugh and say, well, I got to be here. My house is flooded. This is the only place I have to stay. That love and compassion is what unites us, and it's what's going to move us forward. And let me say to Kevin McCarthy, thank you, Kevin, for being here. We appreciate your coming and seeing firsthand. We appreciate the unity that we know will command the House and the Senate. And I will say, even though, like my wife, you may be a Californian.
She was in my district.
Today, we're all Texans, and we're all Houstonians.
For those who don't know, I'm Congressman Kevin McCarthy. I'm the Majority Leader of the House. And for the last 2 days, I've been touring Texas with a number of the delegation, with Senator Cornyn, with your governor, and throughout. And the announcement I want to make today, we'll go back in session tomorrow, and Wednesday morning we will vote on the first relief package through the House, sending it to the Senate. I also want to make the point, it won't be the only relief package we vote on. What we want to do is make sure FEMA has the money going forward as the cities and the counties assess the damage. We'll be working with Chairman Brady and others, and those packages to put back together to make sure we are here for you. I may be from California, but I will tell you the love that I have watched throughout Texas. I was in Beaumont earlier today, and I think the mayor there had it right, Becky Ames. She said, as the downpour began, the outpouring of love overtook it. So I watched the devastation and the lives lost, the optimism that I've watched throughout of Texas. Yeah, I may be from California, but I've never been prouder of Texas and this country, of what the love I've seen in this devastation. So I want you to know we are there for you in every step of the way, from the federal government to personal. My hometown of Bakersfield, they call it a little more like Texas than California. It's home to Buck Owens and Merle Haggard. We loaded up 3 trucks. We've already delivered them to Rockport, to Victoria, and others, bringing it in, and there'll be more coming on the way. Texas will not have to go through this alone, but I know at the end of the day we will be stronger. Thank you, and God bless. I want to introduce my colleague and friend, and this is his district, Congressman Al Green.
Thank you very much, Kevin. I love my country. I try to show it in every way that I can. I love it, and because I love it, I assure you I'm going to do everything that I can to work with my colleagues to make sure that the state of Texas and my congressional district and all of the other congressional districts get all of the funding that they need so that we can help our people make a recovery. We love our country. I also want you to know this. The first responders have been, without question, at their very best. And we lost one of our first responders. And this is a life that was in the business of saving lives. And because we are suffering, there's still some mourning going on. I'm going to ask for just a moment of silence in honor of all of those who have lost their lives. Thank you. Let me mention, if I may, the Red Cross. I don't see a Red Cross person standing nearby. Right over here, raise your hand, please. This is the Red Cross. There's Kay. The Red Cross has been awesome. We were out last night after dark in a community where people have been totally devastated. Kay, could you just come over, please, because you are my partner, and I just want you to please come here and stand next to me. This is my partner. We were out helping people who had their homes completely flooded. You cannot imagine the conditions. You need to see them to actually understand what they're going through. But thank God the Red Cross was there to offer assistance for people to get here today. And the Red Cross will be there for you. I am convinced that our Red Cross is doing an outstanding job. Can we show the Red Cross some love, please? Thank you, Kay. Thank you. I want the mayor to know that I greatly appreciate what he did and what Judge Emmett did. They worked together. We did not get just one huge mega disaster center. We have two in Houston, Texas. And because we have two, we have enough space for every person who needs a place to stay, shelter. We have the shelter for them. I know you've given them an expression of love, but please, let's hear it one more time for the mayor and the county judge. A great team, a great team. And finally this, dear friends. This is not like anything else we have ever seen in our lifetimes. I pray that we'll never see it again. But because it has visited itself upon us, we want to send a signal to the rest of the United States of America. I said I love my country. I know that the rest of the people in this country are watching. They want to see what's going to happen in Houston. We have to be an example for the rest of the country in terms of how we can respond to a major catastrophe. This is our chance to show the country that when people are in need, the United States government is going to step up, step in, and make sure every person who needs help will get help, regardless as to how you got here. If you need help, you ought to get help in the United States of America. Somebody ought to applaud that. This is the United States of America. Sheila, you ought to applaud that. This is the United States of America. We help everybody. And I'm going to do everything that I can to make sure every person is helped, regardless as to how you got here. I love my country, and I love the people in my country. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. And now, I'm asking my colleague, Sheila Jackson-Lee, to come to the podium.
What you are evidencing by my colleagues, thank you, Congressman Green and Kevin, Majority Leader McCarthy, is one sentence: there is hope. There is hope, and Houston is strong, and America is strong. You will hear these gentlemen's names over and over again: Mayor Turner, Sylvester Turner, and Judge Ed Emmett. We cannot give you more of an outpouring of appreciation and recognition. I'm wearing an apron because I believe that wherever you go, there is room to serve. And what my colleagues who you will hear from, they've come to serve. The most important point that we have now is the recovery. And the United States Congress can be the most important vehicle besides your faith and community leaders to help us restore our hope. First responders and chief, thank you so very much, the firefighters. But I also want to thank all of the federal assets. There are so many federal departments here who've left their homes to come and help us. And I thank them. The Texas National Guard, who've been deployed in different places, now down to Port Arthur and to Beaumont. I cannot stop the Marines, the Navy, the Army, so many unnamed volunteers, and some who lost their lives in my congressional district, both those who were seeking to be rescued, but also the rescuers. We must remember their families. And the most powerful moment in any place that we've served, right now we're serving food on Mesa Road, people who are underwater. But the most powerful element is people who have nothing, who are coming to say thank you, hugging us and thanking us for all the work that government has stood up to do. I want to thank Senator Cornyn and Senator Cruz and the Majority Leader. This is a bipartisan Republican and Democratic effort. There's not one sunlight or light of divide between our commitment to serve. I believe, and in his absence, I want to make mention of the Speaker of the House and Leader Pelosi, who have called me and indicated those very words. Now we have, as I heard Senator Cornyn say, we have the man with the money strings, the Majority Leader here. That makes a combination of service. So let me say this, as we go and vote on that first crunch, I'm looking forward to my colleagues working with the point agency, and I want to thank them. Every time I call FEMA, they try to drive the issue and solve it. But I want FEMA to be able to get a wider broadband server so that the thousands upon thousands, the hundreds of thousands who are now driving the FEMA system with their tracking number in all of our districts can get help. And I want to make sure, as Congressman Weber and many other congresspersons join me, that we can get in advance, as have been asked by local officials, or expedited reimbursement, because our people are in need. And I hope that we will be able to get that. Let me conclude by saying the President is a component in this. He visited NRG. He visited with us. Mr. President, will be your signature and your commitment for a clean funding on the supplemental and the CR so that we can get these monies to all of these individuals. And then it may be a lot of money. I believe it's going to be upwards of $180 billion. It may be more. I hope to enjoy all of this support to be able to move $180 billion, whether it's in pieces or in different areas. We've got to give people the need that they have, and the federal government is an umbrella, big one, on a rainy day. There is hope, and I know we are Houston strong and America strong. I am so delighted to work with all of you. Majority Leader, we thank you so very much for coming to our town. Thank you very much. Let me acknowledge our chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, Kevin Brady. I hope you are doing okay, my friend, and all of our areas have been impacted. Thank you, Congressman Brady.
So thank you. So Leader McCarthy, thank you so much for being here today. You've heard us brag about our emergency responders, our volunteers in boats, who one of them, Judge, was my son, who when he heard you call for private boats, he and his buddies, they couldn't pass up that opportunity, and spent 3 days helping rescue people and property in the region because of your leadership. You, Kevin, you've heard us brag about Amir Turner, about our communities and our volunteers. It means so much to us that you're here today to see this devastation in person. And as we lead this recovery where we can help in Congress to help our communities rebuild, that you've seen it firsthand. So again, Kevin, thank you for being here. So no two disasters are the same, and we know this is unprecedented. In addition to funding help, our communities will need tax help as well. So we will listen to our leaders, our mayors, our county judges, our businesses, our governor, and our delegation, and also adding in future packages tax help that I imagine will include lifting the charitable contribution limits so our businesses and families can continue to give to us as we rebuild in this time of crisis. Finding ways so there is easy access to retirement funds and retirement plans for rebuilding your home or other economic damages you have. We expect there to be an exploration of property casualty losses, increasing those limits to help families as well, including support we can give to our local businesses and those who will be displaced for the longer term. The point is, we're going to provide relief that Texas needs, that our communities needs, not what Washington needs, in a way that is helpful, not wasteful, and really delivers the help that you need. So, Mayor, Judge, our delegation, our senators, we're going to work with you to make sure we get the tax support coming down to Texas as well. Thank you. Let me, with that, let me introduce John Culberson. He's got a lot of homes still deep underwater. He's chairman of a key subcommittee in appropriations, is already leading in helping bring our recovery package to fruition. John Culberson.
We are all here today with two messages for everyone in Houston and Louisiana who is hurting, and that is help is on the way. There are no Democrats, there are no Republicans in this effort to rebuild, to restore all that has been lost. You can't restore those lives, but we're here today to say we will be working together arm in arm, regardless of party, regardless of where we're from, to make sure that the people who have suffered from this catastrophe are compensated, that we have a chance to rebuild as quickly as humanly possible. And the second thing is just to say thank you to all of the first responders, to everyone who's worked so hard to save their neighbors, their friends. We're so immensely grateful to people from all over America who have come here to help us. I have spent this is the longest week of my life. I have a hard time remembering what day of the week it is. But in this long, horrible week, the longest lines in Houston, Texas have been volunteers stepping up to help their neighbors and their friends. I've spent the whole week in neighborhoods on boats and trucks, rescuing people and pets and property. And just yesterday, I ran into 4 guys who towed their boat all the way from Florida to come in here and help us. I asked them why they're here. They said, we can either stay home and watch it or come out here and help. I had a guy from Michigan in our neighborhoods helping. The Cajun Army spontaneously formed up and rode at 110 trucks, towing 100 boats to come here with thousands of meals of jambalaya and red beans and rice to help the people of Houston. What has made us the greatest nation on earth is that not only are we self-reliant, we are, and we love our families, we love our communities, we love our God, but we all stick together. We all look after each other. And when it comes to rebuilding from this disaster and making Texas and Louisiana the best they can be, the entire nation will be there, Republicans and Democrats alike. We're deeply grateful to you coming down from California, Mr. Leader. We're with you, arm in arm. Thank you very much. Let me introduce Judge Ted Poe, who suffered also a great deal from this terrible disaster.
I am Ted Poe. I'm glad to be and honored to be here with all of these folks. Mayor, it can't be done any better. And you have made the right decisions for the city. You have made the right decisions for the people. I totally support your decisions that you have made about this hurricane. And it goes the same for the county judge. 2 people of opposite parties, so to speak, working on the issue of not parties, but people. And that's what this is about. It's not about parties, it's about people. I just left the Houston Police Department just a few minutes ago, and at the Houston Police Department you have our first responders, the police as I call them here in Texas, having worked long shifts. Many of them have lost their homes, but they are here on duty helping other people. And there were other police officers there. I met officers from Arlington, from California, Mr. Leader, from 2 different parts of California, and Ohio and Florida, all volunteered to come here to help Houston, Texas. Right after this occurred, I got a phone call from Boston, Massachusetts. I could tell by the area code. I wasn't sure I should take that call or not. They speak a different language up there than we do here. Anyway, it was Representative Kennedy calling and saying, look, we want to help. What can we do? We are sending boats to Texas. I was shocked that they had bass boats in Boston, Massachusetts, but they are doing that. And you know, people born in Texas, we have 2 desires if you're a male child. We want to grow up and we want to own a pickup truck and we want to own a bass boat. And you saw how many of those were out here helping out. The vastness of the destruction is the size of New Jersey. You put New Jersey down here on the Gulf Coast from Rockport to Louisiana, and that's the vastness of the destruction that occurred from the wind and from the water. People have been thanking our first responders. We can't thank them enough. But joining them arm in arm with the first responders were the first volunteers. And the first volunteers were other Houstonians and people from Texas, arm in arm, doing everything they could to help a neighbor. The spirit, the character of the people that saw this destruction, rather than become a victim, they are victorious in the sense that they are helping each other. And the human spirit of the folks here in Texas and Houston, of course I am prejudiced, is remarkable how people are helping each other. And so I want to thank all of the volunteers, all the folks back. Oh, I'm sorry. Al Green. I'm sorry. I whacked you. The folks back here, they're doing all the hard work. And lastly, yes, the federal government has a role, state government has a role, local government has a role, but the role of the people of Southeast Texas and Louisiana is the reason that this disaster is being overcome with victory. The floods have subsided, the sun has come out, and people are working together to make Texas strong. And that's just the way it is. Thank you. Okay. We have Pete Olson. He's south. I'm North Harris County. He is south in Fort Bend County. He, like my district and other districts, got hammered by this hurricane and the floods. And I want to introduce him to make his remarks. Thank you, Pete.
Thank you, Admiral Poe. Again, my name is Pete Olson. I've been in Congress for 9.5 years now. I've served the people of Texas for 22. I have never been more proud than I am today of my service in Congress with these outstanding men and women with me. I'm proud of the response of this congressional delegation. Our senior senator, our whip, my former boss for 5 years, John Cornyn. His colleague and our dear friend, Ted Cruz. The entire House delegation in Washington, our governor, our county judges, Judge Emmett, Judge Matt Sebastian, Missouri County, Judge Bob Aber in Fort Bend County. Before Congress, I was a combat pilot in our Navy. And now I want to brag about our leader, Kevin McCarthy. Kevin, come up here while I brag upon you so they can see you. You're a naval aviator. You're taught to fight a war and win it. Whether it's against a nation or a hurricane. The thing you have to have is what's called a wingman. Somebody who has what we call your six, your backside, off your starboard wing, right behind you, so you can focus your efforts on hitting the target. And my friends, we have a true wingman with us right now, Kevin McCarthy. Thank you, Kevin, for being our wingman. And we have a third wingman off to our starboard side. I'm sorry, the port side, the left side. He's here in spirit. His name is Speaker Paul Ryan. Here's what Paul said about our efforts to fight back against Hurricane Harvey. The Speaker said, "Families and communities affected by Hurricane Harvey have a long road ahead, and the House will be with them every step of the way." He went on, "They should all know that help is coming." May we be guided in our coming days by the example of everyday Texans and citizens and the first responders who have shown such courage in the face of such devastation. Houston strong, Texas strong, America strong. God bless y'all. I yield back. I yield actually to my neighbor to the south, shares the Brazos River, Randy Weber, Texas 14.
Well, thank you, Pete. Thank you all. I'm Randy Weber, District 14, the coastal counties. I represent Galveston County, Jefferson County, southern half of Brazoria County. Folks, I've lived here 64 years on the Gulf Coast. My first hurricane was Carla. I've never seen anything like this. I've been all over the district this whole week. My bride and I have visited shelters. We've delivered water on pallets. Fortunately, I drive a Ford F-350 four-wheel drive truck, so I can get places where I see those bass boats from the Cajun Navy, John. And by the way, we have a new term. They helped us engineer a lot of stuff over here. We're calling it Cajunneering. Come on, that's funny, y'all. So I've watched the misery. I tell you what, the Gulf Coast of Texas, I have been saying, is ground zero for flooding from Harvey. But I've watched our Texans. They're resilient. I've watched people that have lost their homes, lost loved ones, be in shelters, and give and give and give some more. It is amazing. If there's one thing we've learned from this, and we were asked over in Beaumont this morning, our great leader was with us, our senators were over in Beaumont. We are coming together as unity. You're seeing local government, you're seeing state government, county government, federal government work in ways that most didn't believe was possible, and it's going to get better. In all of this, there's a silver lining. Yes, there's pain and misery and suffering. And yes, there is hope, as Jackson Lee. And we will come back from this and be stronger, as Senator Cruz said. But I've watched our people do things that most would have never dreamed they would do, could do. And so I want to say now, as we're in a divided country where you've seen all the angst and the division, the divisiveness, and the controversy, perhaps this is an example that Texas can leave the nation on the way out of that and into unity. Maybe it should be better said, it's hashtag, or pardon me, ground zero for unity. Let the unity begin. Now, I want to say, before I introduce our great county judge, Ed Emmett, we watched him years ago in hurricanes teach us all how to hunker down. How many of y'all remember that? He taught us how to hunker down. But I tell you what, more importantly, he also taught us how to come out and stand strong and get strong and tall and get the job done. Judge, come talk to us.
Thank you very much. I don't know about the standing tall part, but maybe the rest of it. First, thanks to all the members of Congress, Senator Cornyn, Senator Cruz, all the members of the House, Congressman McCarthy, leader, thank you very much. There's great symbolism in us standing here right now. You see a bunch of public officials who are responsible for policy. But behind us are the first responders and the law enforcement that allow it all to happen. So if we could just all kind of turn around here a minute. They've been standing there behind us quietly while we're all talking. But, you know, that's kind of what goes on in the midst of a storm. They're out there doing their job, and I can't say enough about it. Why is this important? This is no longer about Hurricane Harvey. The fact that all these members of Congress are here is about the recovery. Because most of us have now moved on. Storm's been dealt with. But if 2 weeks from now, people still have debris and they don't have a sense that it's going to be picked up, if they don't have a sense that they're going to have housing, if they don't have a sense that all levels of government are working together to bring them relief, then all these warm, fuzzy feelings we have today are going to be gone. So that's what all of you being here symbolize. So it's very, very important. And that's really the only message I've got today. It's time for us to start looking to the future. We have a great shelter here, and I'm going to introduce the woman who heads the organization that made this happen. But I can guarantee you, all these people want out of the shelter. They don't want to be guests in a shelter. They want to go back. They want to get about their lives. Their children want to get in the right schools, and we've got to make that happen. And in case you haven't heard the figure, we had like 500,000 vehicles destroyed in Harris County alone. What does that mean? That means there are a lot of people who are working paycheck to paycheck, who now can't get to their job. We've got to figure out how to make this work. And we've got to lift everybody up. So we'll do that. But I have to go back and recognize, when I called Angela Blanchard at 9-something in the morning and said, can you set up a shelter for 10,000 people? She said, sure. Well, that's an easy answer. When I called her at 4:30 that afternoon to say how long would it take to set up a shelter, she said 6 hours. I said, well, how about 5.5? So at 10 o'clock, and she actually had it open, I believe, by about 9 o'clock, it was here. And you've seen this. This is now the model for what shelters are going to look like in the future, I hope. It's got all the medical facilities. It's got child care. People were allowed to bring their pets in. HEB and a whole list. As a matter of fact, I've got a list here. I won't read the whole thing. Of all those people who donated things. We set up a grocery store, a clothing area. Kids could even watch movies. Now they've got an optical arrangement. They got mental health. Everything imaginable is here. It's like a small town. And the organization that did that is known as Baker Ripley. It used to be called Neighborhood Centers. It is a phenomenal nonprofit organization that really has one purpose, and it is to take care of the community, to take care of those who live here who need assistance in assimilating and to making their lives better and truly living the American dream. And the woman that is helping more people realize their American dream is Angela Blanchard, the CEO of Baker Ripley. Angela.
So I got a couple things to tell you. Number one, the most precious supply after a storm is leadership, and you can't bring that in on a truck. So I was proud to work for Ed Emmett and work for the people of this region, and I was especially proud to see the unity between Judge Emmett and Mayor Turner. And I want to say this, there is a moment of grace that descends upon us in a catastrophe. There's this spirit that comes out, and we're all together. And you know, there's no aisle in a storm. And y'all better not go back there and create one. And I mean it. I want what you see here today to last until we're done. Until every single person in this region can restart their lives. I have one more thing to say. I'm proud we gave them shelter. You've got to give them back a future. And I'm counting on all of you for that. So thank you. Thank you for being here today. And Judge asked me the other night, how were you able to do it? I think I just figured it out. I'm Cajun. I grew up in Beaumont. And we have a way of life that says you do what you can with what you have, where you are, right now. And that's what we're doing. Thank you.
You know, throughout this event, Mayor Turner and I we've talked to each other a lot. And the good news is we were friends before this event came along. And he and my wife are even better friends. That's a whole different story. They work together on a lot of issues. And that's important because if you know each other as human beings, it allows you to not only discuss and agree, but it allows you to disagree with each other. And to do it in a way that we can talk things through and say, okay, I didn't like that decision you made, and he didn't like this decision I made, and I'm sure we've had a lot of that. But we never go public and we never get out there and say, and do that, because that doesn't solve anything. So when the mayor set up George R. Brown and there was clearly a need for another shelter, we reached out and we did this. And I must say, I'm not going to read this list, but this list of about 20 cities, this is who's in the shelter or who has come through this shelter. Because the mayor is the mayor of Houston. I'm the judge of Harris County, but both of us early on said, we don't care where you're from, we're going to help. And we're not going to worry about bureaucratic rules. Sorry, I violated a lot of those this last week. But we've had a great partnership, and now that partnership is going to extend to making sure people get their lives back. And so it's my distinct pleasure and honor to introduce to you my friend, my colleague, the mayor of the city of Houston, Sylvester Turner.
Let me just start off by certainly acknowledging Senator Cornyn and Senator Cruz and the entire congressional delegation. All of you here, let me thank you for what you have done. Let me thank you for what you will do. And I do want to acknowledge County Judge Ed Emmett. I will tell you, I could not have had a better partner at this moment in time, and quite frankly, even before and right now. I thank him for his friendship. I thank him for his experience. We worked hand in hand, and quite frankly, the city could not have advanced through this ordeal, and we're still in it without him, his experience, and the support of the county. I appreciate you on so many multiple levels. I think sometimes the heavens remind us that under the sun, we all need one another, for good or bad. I think when the skies open up, it allowed us to put a lot of things in their proper perspective, to recognize that when the heavens open up, it did not ask, where you live. It did not ask your social economic background. It didn't ask your religion. It just said, here I am. And now you all recognize the fact that we are all connected. I want to thank the federal partners, because the people and our respective regions can't move forward without our federal partners. I want to thank people on the state level, the governor and others. We need each other. And I do want to highlight the first responders. And one of the things that we have asked for is that we put in place, as we go forward, an expedited registration recovery process for our first responders. We cannot ask them to be on the front line, to be out there 24/7, to go without their medicine, and in many ways to sacrifice their lives. And when the county judge and I are telling people to stay at home, shelter in place, they are the ones who are on the street. And many of them have lost their homes. One lost his life. So I'm hoping that as we move forward, that we can put in place an expedited registration recovery process for our first responders. They ought to be the first one to know that they are going to be made whole as much as possible when all is said and done. So let me just thank you, Angela. I have to say with the judge, let me thank you for what you all have done. For all of the volunteers, those who have operated the George R. Brown and the other shelters, let me thank all of them. Let me thank volunteers. We don't know their names. They didn't ask. They didn't want. They didn't give us their names. They just gave up themselves. I want to thank all of them. I want to thank the Good Samaritans, people we will never know, who came to our rescue. And then lastly, I want to thank the people in the city of Houston and the people in Harris County and people all over the region who were directly impacted, but who have been so very patient. They've been very patient. They're the ones who got the water, the flood, and in some cases the waters are still in their homes. The power went off. They lost everything. But let me just tell you about Texans. Even when the road is tough, and even when they are burdened by so much, Texans have a way of continuing to smile, continuing to help each other out, even when they are about to lose everything. And that's why I am more proud of being a Texan today than I have ever been. Even when people have counted Texans out, Texans have managed to rise and come back stronger. And we don't take a whole lot of time to do it. We just recognize that it needs to be done. So for people who have been in the storm, and for people who are still in the storm, from those who are seniors, disabled, those who don't have very much, low-income individuals, for those who own homes, for those who are apartments, who are renters, for those who have even just been on our street homeless. They came from outside and sought shelter. I want to thank each and every one of them for just being patient for each and every one of us and for recognizing that we're not going to leave anyone behind. But thank you so very much. Thank all of you, and we need each other. Thank you.